Right on.
Nice. Recording. Okay, let's get back to the share. All right, so I'm just going to talk about this, really quickly, where this whole process, started and where it came from, and ultimately we're talking about the Wobbler360, and we've got a new product, a new version now that's made in plastic, and so much lighter, and it goes on all these other surfaces and everything. But we're going to dial it back a little bit here for a few minutes and talk about where we started. This whole thing started with Mike Maddox, who is at the top of the page in the middle picture there, where that's actually at Revolution in Cranberry before we even had finalized the build out. He had brought the isokinetic accelerator machines to us, those big black machines, John, I think that you've used and seen in the past, right? And so he was kind of the mastermind behind the equipment that Marv Marinovich, who is on the left, had started this, sports lab training system back in the 80s and had trained Troy Polamalu and BJ Penn and all of these guys. And it was primarily those two and another lady who was a chiropractor that was behind most of the system. And, the picture on the bottom right is of Bruce Jenner. And the reason why he's on there is Mike Maddox actually went to school at Graceland University and competed as a decathlete with Bruce Jenner. And then when he left, him and another guy named Barney Fuller, they were both track athletes at Graceland University. Mike Maddox had won the national championship. I think it was in 1967 or something along those lines, or 69. And he was would have qualified for the Olympics had it been, an Olympic year. So he was an absolute stud, ends up getting hurt. And then Bruce ends up coming along and basically breaking all of Mike's records and ends up the Olympic champion. And then the story goes on from there, right? So the machine in the middle is the Super Cat, and that was the invention by Barney Fuller. So Mike Maddox and Barney Fuller, who Mike created the isokinetic machine, and Barney had created the Super Cat machine for plyometrics and for jumping. They both worked for a company, again, this is back in the 70s, called Mini Gym. And Mini Gym was an isokinetics company that had produced really your first kind of commercialized isokinetics products. They used to have, it was kind of on a flywheel, and you just kind of pulled this flywheel like a lawnmower. And then they had all these different attachments. And then they eventually ended up building a machine that was similar to, the isokinetic machine that we have here. And the one that you're seeing in the picture there with me and Tyrell and Mike Maddox at the top. And so they ended up, leaving Mini Gym and deciding to make their own equipment. And then eventually they met Marv and, this whole thing unraveled. So then basically, if you want to click to the next slide. So we ended up, we got the Wobbler in Pittsburgh and in Cranberry. And it was the same time, and maybe you remember this, John, we got all this new equipment. Right. So we had the crawler, the strider, the jumper, and all of these things, and as a young business owner, I think back, and it's kind of comical. Like it was not a great idea to try to figure out how to use 13 new pieces of equipment or whatever. But, we were ambitious and, thought that the equipment was awesome and, wanted to see what we could do with it. And we never really thought that. You see Xander back there?
I do. I mean, I haven't. I remember when it was a baby.
Yeah, right. You remember when he's a baby, right? Yeah, exactly. So that's one of the cool parts. So actually, I'd like to have him hop on the Wobbler here in a minute to show him how easy it is too. And obviously, you have it now, so you've already seen the differences.
Yeah.
But so we never really expected that the Wobbler was going to be what we ended up coming to believe that it can be. And, number one, we never thought that everybody was going to love it. Number two, we just didn't realize how much utility that it had. It was like, okay, hey, go stand on this thing side to side initially. And, the stories that I tell about this, when I was working with Shamarko Thomas, I had walked into the clinic one day and said, hey, Shamarko, I'm busy, whatever I was doing, go hop on the Wobbler for a few minutes. I'll be back here and then we'll start working together. So he's getting warmed up on the Wobbler. I'm doing whatever I'm doing. And I go back over and he's pouring sweat. And I'm like, man, he's just been wobbling around. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is a cardio piece of equipment here. I never thought about it. So I ran over and grabbed one of the heart rate monitors and realized that he was actually at around 130, 140 beats per minute on his heart rate. And it was like, ding, ding, ding. Oh, we can use this, piece of equipment here for something different than just balancing, right? So then another day I walked in from the morning session. I went home and I walked into my house during lunch, basically planning on getting lunch at my house. And my mother is in the living room watching one of her shows, wobbling around in the living room, carpet. And I'm like, Mom, what are you doing? She's like, oh, I do this all the time. I love it. And I was like, oh, I never really thought about it for that, right? So, and I'm all into the science behind this, right? Understanding the barefoot stuff and all of this myofascial stuff and the speed of sport and all of these things, not really thinking about how it can be a generally good piece of exercise equipment for cardio, and working on your core and all these things and being able to use it in your house as well. So, basically, it was designed really to allow you. John, is that bothering you? Can you hear everything okay?
I hear you fine.
Yeah, you hear that squeaking noise in the back? It's not too bad.
It's definitely in the background. You hear it worse than I do, I think.
Okay, cool. So, the whole system was designed from this idea, of building your feet and working on this full body connection, right? And making sure that we're using all four limbs and ultimately, being able to integrate, what we would call your myofascial system, which is basically all the connective tissue and your muscles and your nerves working together and sequencing everything in the appropriate coordinated movements and, movement patterns, which primarily also comes into what we do with plyometrics. So we're always looking at ways to enhance that ability to be explosive like we do in plyometrics. But, plyometrics also kind of, are a little bit self-limiting, and you can only do so many of them. But we still want to work on that quick change of direction and that athletic movement. So how can we do it in a more low impact manner? Well, typically we would only ever do it in the pool in that way. And then that was where Mike's equipment came along. And it was like, well, if you want to train these movements under a lot of repetition and volume, then you need to do it in a more low impact way. And all of his equipment was designed to be that way. So in the Wobbler is kind of the quintessential, piece or the epitome of the system when you really look at what it does. So go ahead and click on the, right? So when we look at the fastest people and the best movers, they have this side bending and weight shifting thing that they do. And it's just an all functional movement. We have about 60 to 40% weight shifting, so side to side, or you can look at it as displacement front to back. And you also have 40 to 60% rotation, right? So even when we're running, we have this side to side movement where the body is rotating, but it's also side bending and shifting to one side, causing the head to go over the foot. And with your natural mechanics, I don't know if I want to say natural, but the best athletes move that way. And the argument is that, when we're kids, the way that we crawl and all of our movement patterns are more like what we see with elite athletes. But as we get older, there's a million reasons why, we start to not move that way, but we still see our elite athletes moving that way. So when we get injury going on, especially in the lower extremity, you tend to do the exact opposite. So if you want to click to the next slide, right? Actually go to the next slide. Yeah. So in this picture, you can see this is a new term that I'm calling ambikinetic, and this research was looking at how do we have all four limbs moving when we're moving in space with either a lacrosse, stick or a football in our arms. If we change the position of the football or the lacrosse stick, how does it change the angles, at our limbs, right, and at our trunk? And it's very significant. And the reason why this is, go ahead and go to the next slide, is that when we think about limping, right? Is there another picture of the limping? Yeah, so this is the next slide. So when we think about limping, we actually end up doing the opposite of what we're talking about. When we get into this power position here, where my head's over top of my foot, boom, and I can explode out of it, right? We do the opposite when we limp. So if my left leg is hurting, right, what I'm going to do is lean my body away from that leg, right, and I shift my head away as I walk, right, and typically we'll also see that only one arm is swinging and we're head over here to the side instead of getting this, reciprocal motion where we're here. And then it's even worse when people try to run with a limp. So one of the main things that the Wobbler does is to help you start balancing that limping pattern out, which we've seen that most people tend to favor one side of the body more than the other, even just from the standpoint of being right-handed or left-handed. But most people have had some type of pain or injury in the past that causes them to move awkwardly, and they aren't able to use another term for what we're looking at. That picture with Chris Johnson is what they call the spinal engine, this ability to rotate and weight shift and get into these positions and use your core and your trunk and all four limbs correctly to basically produce force. So, on one end, we have this elite level mechanics that looking at centering and going into this power position. On the other end, we have this fragmented, broken type of mechanics that either is from being injured or is going to cause you to have more injury. Now, everybody else is somewhere in the middle. So whenever you're going out and say, you're somebody that wants to run or even walk, you don't realize that you might be favoring one side of your body. Highly likely that you are, and it's really hard to feel that favoring of that movement that you're doing. So, and that's really what the Wobbler is designed to do. It's designed to help you self-correct so you can get more symmetry with your weight shifting in these rotational patterns as you go. Okay. So this is another picture of the myofascial system idea of how the spinal engine works. And this picture of this, if you look it up on YouTube, it's called Hall. Actually, we should play this for you, John. Let me go back to this so you can see this. Yeah. Did I already talk to what?
Don't forget you have to screen share the YouTube link.
Yeah.
You're definitely trying to challenge yourself, aren't you, with technical stuff?
Yeah.
There you go.
I've been doing a lot of this I've been doing these weekly Zoom meetings.
Oh,
so
okay.
if you can see the mechanics there, right, of how he's moving, arguably this is very close to how really high level athletes use their whole body to move all four limbs at the same time, right? You can see this little side bending, you can see the rotation, and you can see how he is getting onto his hips to make that motion happen. I'll just do that one more time so you can see it again. I think it's pretty powerful.
Right.
I keep saying that too. I think it's a he, but we can't really tell from here.
Oh, it has to be.
I know, right? That's
Cool.
Yeah. So basically, I don't know if you remember Eric Harris, John. He was the guy. He's playing for the Las Vegas Raiders now. That's him in the picture there. And he was at the time one of the first people that really got to experiment with this. So basically, coming back to what I was saying, we're taking our crawling pattern and moving it into an upright position, which arguably is supposed to happen through motor development and normal, motor development over the lifespan. You go from a toddler and you're crawling, and then to the cruising and to the walking and to the running. So you're supposed to naturally be designed to create this ipsilateral pattern. But again, like I said, we don't always see it. And ultimately, if we can look at a competitive advantage when it comes to biomechanics, doing this is your best competitive advantage, not only from, for a performance scenario, but also preventing injuries, because you're working on creating that natural movement pattern that the body's supposed to go through that helps to align all the joints and the muscle and the connective tissue in the right positions. So you're not going to, overstress those areas. And also being able to move more efficiently is going to get you better results with everything that we're looking at. Again, like I said, we're looking at trying to improve symmetry with your weight shifting and your rotation. And then the soft part of this is designed to really, mimic being on, a soft surface like grass or a mat or sand. But we've kind of modified it now, and I'm sure that you, John, that you've seen this, is that the skin on the top of it is a little different, right? It's a little more firm, and there's not quite as much foam padding. So I really believe that it allows you to feel the bottom better, and it makes the Wobbler a lot more responsive. and that's the kind of the take home with this, is that, the Wobbler, the patent on it is this idea that you can proactively balance while you're moving in space, right? So instead of being on the BOSU where you're standing there and trying to hold that position, now we can balance around and move around in space, and also adjust our mechanics based upon the feedback that we're getting from the Wobbler, just like you would do when you're riding a skateboard without the risk of riding a skateboard. So like we said before, it's so much lighter now, right? Like you've seen. So, the original version was the original version was like 27 or 28 pounds, the ones that we first had made. And then the last ones that we got made in the steel were actually about 22 pounds. And these ones are coming in around 7 pounds, right?
Lyneil, I was going to ask you that question. I couldn't recall what the material was in those ones that we were using. I thought it was, for some reason, I thought it was fiberglass, but you're saying it was steel.
It was actually steel, right? Yeah. I think Mike had actually tried to do some things with fiberglass, but it just wasn't easy. It didn't work for somebody that was heavier. It created cracks in the fiberglass. So that was also the kind of the risk on going into this plastic one. We weren't really sure 100% if it was going to work, but Mike was real confident in it, and it ended up turning out awesome. And I'm going to
test that the heavy weight part of it. So I'll let you know.
Yeah, good. Yeah, let us know. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, that's a good part. We've been testing it. We need more testing too, so that'll be good information coming back. So and then we ended up lucking out with this bottom surface ending up looking like this bowling ball marbly type of material. So we decided to keep that. And the cool part about this, again, it goes on different surfaces. Now, the one thing that I wanted to take home today with this as a take home point is that the rougher that the surface that you put it on, like I'm looking right now, if I went and put it on this sidewalk or the asphalt out there, it's going to create some friction and probably some mild abrasive damage to the bottom of this. So you still want to keep it on a smooth surface. Like if you're going to do it on concrete, you want it to be on polished concrete. It still works really well on the carpet, and now it works way better on like a rubber gym floor. And that was probably the biggest thing that I was excited about. Because you would always have to, like in this picture, you'd always have to go over to the green carpet to do it. Now you can kind of do it anywhere, but you got to be smart about it, right? If you're going to take it on to, again, like a, asphalt or somewhere that's, really uneven and rough, it's going to start scratching up the bottom of the surface of the Wobbler. I don't know if it's going to, create any real damage to it, but it's, it's definitely going to scuff it up and, it could cause some issues with it down the line. So now I just want to kind of go over the basics. I don't know if you want to grab your Wobbler and do this. I know that you're pretty experienced with it, but we're also kind of recording this for other people as well. So I'm going to go through it. The first thing that we're looking at doing with this is this weight shifting pattern. Can you guys see the Wobbler from there? Or do I need to back up a little bit? Yeah,
I think it's pretty good.
Right. So again, the importance of this head over foot, right? Shifting the weight over, back and forth, and getting your body to go over top of your foot and weight shifting, right? A lot of times people are staying probably a little bit too centralized here, which isn't necessarily bad, but eventually we want to get them into this weight shifting pattern. And that's why we weight shift, right? And that's the reason why we're, making sure that whenever I get to my right side here, that my weight is completely down on my right side. And then as I switch, I want my weight to be completely down on my left side. I want my head to start to shift over top of my foot, right? And then I'm going to come back. And that's the first movement that we practice, right? So you're just going to go side to side, side to side, side to side, and let your body shift over top of your foot. Boom, boom,
that's
boom,
actually
boom.
good. That's actually good advice, because I in the little bit that I have been playing with it since I got it, I've been much daintier, let's call it. I haven't been going completely to the one side and then completely to the other side. So that's actually good advice. I hadn't been working it as hard as I should have been.
Nice. Yeah, and that's why I wanted to get on here and do this, so we could make sure that everybody knew the fundamentals and the basics behind this. And we're going to continue to put out new exercises and new workouts and things here in the next few weeks, and continue to do that as we move forward. And so, but today was just really about kind of, honing in on those basics and those take homes that we need to really focus on here. So,
Right.
and the main reason why you want to get it onto the side like that and get your weight down is because it's really designed to turn better on its side, right? So then basically that's, the next two things we're going to do are work on rotation. So the first thing to do is to keep it flat, right? And you're just going to rotate back and forth. Now, again, the trick is to focus on, if my left hip is coming forward, my left shoulder is going back, and then vice versa. What's that?
Hard to hold the phone. Hard to hold the phone and spin because I can't use my arms.
Right.
That's cool though.
Yeah, and I don't know if I 100% need to see you or you need to see me.
Oh,
or,
I know.
or what.
I know.
Yeah, whatever makes sense. We can make sense of it. But yeah. So we're gonna go back and forth, making sure that again, the shoulder and the hips are going in a different direction. So again, if my right hip comes forward here, right? If my right hip comes forward, my right arm is going back, and my right shoulder, even more importantly, just like that guy that we were just watching on that video, right? He was counter rotating here, right? So, and to not jump too far ahead, that's one of the things we talked about in the video we just put out, is making sure you're not causing like a bracing movement in your abs, but you're keeping your abs engaged, you're keeping your pelvis in neutral, you're keeping your knees a little bit bent, right? You want to keep your chest up, right? Your butt's a little bit back and your knees are a little bit bent, but you should be able to move. You should feel like you're in a really relaxed position where you would dance. That's the way that I like to describe it to people, right? So then the next movement to do is that you tip it on its side, right? And then you rotate from here. And this helps you to really, again, feel where that bottom position is on the side that you're standing on, and then also be able to feel that rotation and counter rotation. And typically what happens to people here is they start and they end up on one side where they're rotating and they can't get the counter rotation. Right. So the counter rotation has to come, you rotate one direction, and then I'm going to counter rotate in the other direction, right? Back and forth, and then I'm going to switch and do the same thing here, back and forth. And we usually do each one of these for a minute, where we just have people to start off where you just pedal back and forth, get this motion. And the cool part about this pedaling motion, I mean, you can really get going, right? The same thing with this rotational motion. You can really get your arms driving. And if you remember, we also used to like to use those hand weights, right? Typically not more than 5 pounds. And even coming back to this, the Wobbler being lighter, you're probably better off going with lighter weights, because you want to counterbalance with the resistance that's going on with your feet, with what's the resistance that are going on in your hands. You don't want it to be too asymmetrical, right? So you don't want this to be 7 pounds and then you're holding 20 pounds in your hand. There are some things that we're going to show where you can do that, but for functional mechanics, like we're talking about in biomechanics, you want it to be more equal and more symmetrical in terms of that resistance. So I just wanted to throw that out at you, right? And ultimately, I'm sure you especially probably remember the necker. I also like to use the necker, the yoke, right? I like to use that as well. We don't have any of those for sale right now, but that's going to be coming here, as we go. So then, from there, once you get the weight shifting and those rotational patterns down, right, we just put it together, and you're going to go side, rotate, right? And we just put it together, back and forth. And again, and I think, the important part of this is understanding, right, is keeping in this position and then being able to weight shift back and forth as you go, right, to make sure that we're getting that spinal engine motion in doing it. I think it's even easier on here, because now it's so much easier to feel the down position through the Wobbler because of how much lighter it is and how much less foam that we have, right? So, and then the next exercise for that is, and I challenge everybody to do this. I look forward to seeing people posting this on Facebook as we go, is what I'd like, is to do this single leg rotation pattern, right? So now my leg is completely off, right? I'm rotating to the opposite side, back and forth here, right? So I think one more thing
I'll aspire to that one.
Yeah, exactly, right? One more thing to note that I've been noticing on here too is that basically if I put my feet a little bit closer to the front, it seems to be moving easier, even compared to the older ones. It seems that moving your feet to the front, it just gives you a lot more control, especially with the karaoke position. When we're doing this, the feet being in the front helps to move it a lot more efficiently and a lot easier. Trying to think of what else I wanted to say on here before I open it up. You know, we can have whatever type of Q&A here that you want to have. Did I miss anything, Julian? I think that's probably pretty good.
I was going to say something, Lyneil. A lot of
Sure.
people will hop on it and they'll notice, especially the weight shifting, that they'll veer off to one side. That definitely means you're favoring a side. It's not something with the wobbler. A lot of my kids will hop on it and start kind of veering off to one side, and that's because they're favoring it, or their weight's off to that one side. They just don't realize it. So important to keep that in mind. If you're going to a certain direction, then you're favoring that side.
Did they blame the wobbler?
Well, they just kind of were like, I don't understand what's happening. Why am I going off to the left?
Yeah.
It's like, because you're really feeling that way. You just don't feel it. But that's the genius thing about it, is it allows you to self-correct that. But even if it's something just real minute, like you're kind of, slowly veering to one side, then you're favoring that. So.
Right. John, you got anything? I got one more thing that I was going to show you that is probably something that is easy for you to do that I really like. I don't even know if Taylor and let me show you this first and then we can just talk. So I call it the 360. This is the reason why I wanted to call it the 360. So it's basically, if I'm standing on here, and it might be hard to see, but all you're doing is taking your weight and shifting it around the 360 motion, or the 360 is it circumference or no? Radius, diameter, not diameter. No, what is it?
Circumference.
Circumference, right? Yeah. So you guys can see me okay?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So all you're going to do is shift your weight around the wobbler, right? And go to the front to the back, right? And you can reverse directions and shift your weight around here. And it really makes you have to use your core to hold yourself in place and be able to do that. It's one that I've been giving a lot of my clients to do just to get used to finding the edges, right? It's also something that I like to do first thing in the morning when I hop on there to get, just to kind of get my equilibrium and feel where I'm at. Sometimes I even do that motion without the wobbler. It's just because it really centers you when you're trying to figure out where that circular motion is supposed to go to reach the edges of it.
Yeah. Cool.
You got any other questions?
Oh, I mean, I don't know that I have questions. I mean, the questions that I had, I guess, are more about like not really even knowing what the thing is capable of doing or what I'm capable of doing on it. I mean, I think the idea of putting stuff on the Facebook page, like the sample exercises, was, I think, a really, really good idea, because I'm not good at making things up for myself. And to have an example, I mean, Janan, like when I was coming to your place, Janan was really good about giving me a list of things to do.
Right.
And if I can develop something like that for this set of exercises, I think it will help me, because I'm not good at remembering things. I'm not good at making things up. So I'll look forward to doing that. And I guess, like I said, the Facebook thing is the putting a video or two together or more even would be very helpful. So that's great. I mean, the presentation you gave, I think, was really, really good. You hit on a lot of the things and a lot of the reasons why I decided I was going to buy this thing. I mean, first of all, I had the prior experience with it, but I mean, I'm at the point now in my life where I'm feeling that balance is a challenge for me, playing sports, and proprioception. Sometimes I feel like I just don't know where I am in space, so to speak, when I'm playing sports. That is it's disconcerting for me, because it's getting worse as time goes on. And I got to try to hold on to whatever I have, or maybe turn back the hands of time a little bit, at least so I don't feel like I'm getting worse. And so, I mean, I think this thing, I mean, the balance, the core is important for me. I've had chronic low back pain. That was really the reason that I came to see you, and that's continued. But I've done some non-steroidal, like PRP type injections in my low back in the last few months. And so I've got to build my core. So this is, I
Right.
think, going to be a really good thing to do. And then the other thing that you hit upon that for me is important is low impact. I'm breaking down in some ways. I've done, like I had several meniscus tears in my knee that I had stem cells injected
Okay.
to get that.
Are you
done.
still doing volleyball? Wasn't it volleyball
Yeah,
that you
yeah.
play? Right.
Thank you. You do remember. And I mean,
Oh
once
yeah.
we come,
Yeah.
once we come out of the pandemic, I'll be back to
Oh
playing it.
yeah. Right.
Yeah, we've it's been like almost a year since I've been on a court, and but once we get out of it, I'm hoping to be ready. And so there were a lot of reasons, good timing, and all of that I decided when you announced the availability that I would take advantage of it. I mean, I don't know that I'd have bought something like this from somebody else. I think certainly the fact that I knew you made a big difference. So,
Right.
I just say thanks for doing that. Really appreciate it. I knew how hard you worked on this too. So
thank you. Yeah. I really appreciate that. That's cool. I think it's awesome that you bought it. And that you just said everything. Like, I think that's an amazing testimonial for this product, because it's exactly what it's designed for. So I think even more, since the fact that you've been off from volleyball for a year, this is going to help you even more, right?
Yep.
If you're planning on going back to volleyball. So that's kind of why we put our foot on the gas to get this made. With everything right now with the pandemic, it's like this is a great time for somebody to be able to have a little product like this that they can do in their house to keep working on their athletic movements and their balance, and then it also kind of gives you no excuse, right? You got this little thing there that you can hop on at any time and even watch Shark Tank or whatever your favorite show is, Curse of Oak Island. Janann makes fun of me for watching that because they never find anything, but that's what I do that. So that's awesome to hear. I feel the same way. The older that you get, the more that you start, losing some of these faculties that you're talking about. And that's what I'm so excited about this product, to get it out there to people, because I think it can really make a difference in people's lives. Now that it's in this new form and design, it makes it cost effective and affordable, and it's just we're super excited about it. So that's awesome feedback.
Lyneil, can you
Sure.
send the YouTube links, John? There's YouTube links of a bunch of different exercises that you can follow along with to try. I know you said you kind of don't remember some of them, but we have links to a lot of different ones that you can follow if you want.
Yep,
Taylor,
thank you. Yep. Sorry.
Yeah, my plan. Sorry, John. My plan. I'm gonna actually, what John was talking about, I'm gonna make workouts here and start posting them. So, hey, do this for a minute, little circuits and things that you can do, and a bunch of different exercises with those videos. I should have those done by Monday or Tuesday. So they'll be ready to go, and it'll just be YouTube. It'll be those videos that you're talking about, Taylor, but you're going to be able to click through and go, okay, hey, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, like John was saying, like a workout program. So I've just been trying to get one thing done at a time here. It's been like you said, it's been hard work getting this out there, John. Sorry I interrupted you there, John. I don't know what you were going to say.
Oh no, it was right on target. I mean, like I say, I think that, having witnessed what you did here with the initial versions of it, and then, advancing to this next release, I mean, you can see that there's changes, and they're all in a good way. So
thank you. All right. So anybody got anything else? Otherwise, I'm probably gonna end it, and then we're gonna keep doing this, John. So we'll be just continuing to add more information here, and more, like I said, more workouts and more exercises as well. So
all right, sounds good. I'll look forward to it. Hi, Jan.
All right, awesome.
I just wanted to add something real quick. If there's ever anything that you're wondering about on the fly, you can just comment in that group. We're pretty responsive on it, so we can answer questions, or if you want to post a video and say, does this look right, or is there something I can change, or whatever, we can do that.
I'll write. I don't know about the videos, but I'll write.
Yeah, nobody wants to post their videos just yet. Need a little more practice.
All right, well, thanks. I appreciate you guys being on here.
I appreciate it. It's good work.
No
Thanks,
problem.
guys. See ya.
All right, thank you. Yep, bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.